Sweet friends, and welcome back to Peaceful Bird Gardens. My name is Danny. It is another beautiful day here in Central Florida, Zone 9B, 10A. And today I wanted to talk to you about a lovely native plant called shiny coffee. I absolutely love shiny coffee because it can grow in the shade. Now, shiny coffee is in the Rubiaceae family. It is Psychotria nervosa, and there are actually over 1,500 species in the Psychotria genus. This is just one of them. There's also softleaf coffee, which we have here in our landscape, as well as Bahama coffee. So this plant is absolutely gorgeous. It is evergreen. It is completely hands-off in my experience. This particular variety is a dwarf. It's a cultivar called Little Psycho, if you can believe that. Now, wild coffee is actually the cousin to Arabica coffee, or Coffea arabica that you're familiar with drinking in the morning. This particular plant, though, and other species in the genus of Psychotria, as far as I know, do not contain caffeine in the berries, but from my understanding and from what I've read, the indigenous people of Florida, as well as some of the early settlers, would use the beans as a coffee-like drink. I have also heard that it is terrible and it tastes awful and it can give you a headache, so I don't necessarily recommend doing that. Now, this plant has gorgeous white little showy tubular-like flowers that the pollinators go nuts for. This plant is loaded with bees and butterflies when she's in full bloom. Now, she blooms multiple times through the year for us. She's not even finished with the berries that she had from her last flush, and we've already got flowers that are starting again on the tips here. Now, as I mentioned, they do have berries. They have gorgeous red berries. This really is just a showstopper of a plant if you choose to put it in your landscape, because after those showy white flowers are finished, she's covered in these gorgeous little ruby colored berries. They are edible, but this is one of those, I think I'd mentioned zombie apocalypse food before when it comes to native plants. This would qualify as that. This would qualify as zombie apocalypse food, in my personal opinion. If you happen to love these berries, you know, you do you. But I find them a little not awesome. So I will taste them for you, for those of you who are not familiar, and just kind of give you my impression. Again, they're not my favorite. So, okay, flavor profile. So there's not a lot of pulp, again, similar to the marlberries that I showcased before. There's not a lot of pulp here. There's definitely more pulp than a mulberry, but they're somewhat gelatinous, just the tiniest bit of sweetness, mostly bitter though, mostly bitter. So in my opinion, so not very palatable. But the birds absolutely love these berries, which is what makes it such a great wildlife plant, both for the pollinators and for the birds. Now, just like all the coffee species, they really thrive and love shade. They won't love you if you put them in full sun. They can actually get leaf burn, I have noticed, in full sun. They also do not handle salt inundation or salt burn or being inundated with salt water. So if you live on the coast, I'm afraid this may not be the right specimen, landscape plant for you. Now, the name Psychotria actually means life or soul, and I believe that has to do with the medicinal properties of the berries. The nervosa part of that has to do with this deep, lovely venation of the leaves. I've mentioned it's evergreen. It is really a hands-off plant. You do not have to fertilize it whatsoever because it is a native plant. They can follow the rain cycles. I do recommend mulch for these particular native plants. We heavily mulch ours because they do like moist soil, especially in the beginning when they're being established. Now, if you're looking for this plant out in the natural landscape of Florida, You'll find them in like wooded hammocks, you know, under the tree canopy, kind of along the edge there. And you can actually find these plants at pretty much any local native nursery that you have. I, of course, recommend Wilcox Nursery. That's where I shop for my native plants. But you can find them at any native plant nursery that you happen to love. So yeah, if you're looking for a gorgeous, evergreen, hands-off, drought-tolerant bird and pollinator plant for your landscape, consider Shiny Coffee, particularly the dwarf variety, Little Psycho. I absolutely love this plant in our landscape. And if you're interested in gardening for wildlife, having a food forest, or just gardening in general, in Florida specifically, give us a like, hit subscribe, and I'll see you again on Peaceful Bird Gardens. Have a lovely afternoon.